Hello. So, last week I uploaded a video on YouTube on this channel. If you're watching this is Rise with Jules. And I said that I was going to do a series of videos talking about a book called Push Off From Here, written by Laura McGowan. I read this book a few years ago. I'm reading it. Well, I recently listened to it again on Audible, and I'm reading it again. Why? Because I'm still struggling with alcohol. I'm still struggling with addiction. And whether you're struggling with alcohol addiction, sugar, negativity, even gambling, whatever it is, it's addiction. And without going into the science of what part of your brain is triggered, all of that stuff, does it matter? You're doing something that's not giving you any rewards anymore. It worked until it didn't. It worked until it didn't. And when it started to have a negative effect in your life, you started to ask yourself questions. Am I addicted? And if you're asking yourself that question, then you probably are. That's okay, because you're human. And all of these things are addictive. So they affect different people different ways. If you've had trauma in your life, you tend to become addicted quicker. If you've done the ACEs test, that can be available. If you have high scores on that, I'll put a link to the ACEs survey in the comments below. If you score a high score, alcohol addiction is something that quite often happens with people like that. And my score is quite high, so okay, why am I here? I mentioned this book last week, and I told you every week I'm going to do a different chapter. So I'm doing chapter 1 this week. These videos are going to be short, though. I'm not reading the entire chapter to you. I'm just reading a couple of pieces in the chapter that stood out to me. Even just maybe one or two captions, one or two paragraphs in the chapter, just so you can get an idea of the theme that is going through this entire book that will help you with an addiction, whether it's alcohol or any other addiction. This book will help you a lot. And I'm not affiliated with her. I'm not getting any money from this. This is just, it's helping me to show up for myself and for you. If you're listening to this and you're still listening to this, I hope this is helping. So again, I just want to remind you that in this book, she will talk about the 9 things, and I'm going to read the 9 things. So throughout these videos, I will be reading, okay? So the 9 things are, it's not your fault. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. Number 2 is, it is your responsibility. 3, it is unfair that this is your thing. 4, this is your thing. 5, this will never stop being your thing until you face it. Number 6, you can't do it alone. 7, only you can do it. 8, you are loved. You are loved. 9, we will never stop reminding you of these things. So this week, I am talking about the fact that this is not your fault. Alcohol or whatever other addiction you have is addictive. And when your brain starts to recognize a pattern of something you're doing, and it starts to think that you need that to be alive, to stay alive, it will do whatever it takes to get you to use that substance. It's doing its job. So you've created this path, and that path starts to become more of a ditch. And then when you start to realize that it's not doing you any favors anymore, you start to try to climb out of that ditch. And sometimes you're quite successful at it. But quite often you'll fall back in it. And that's normal. That's a normal part of recovery. But eventually, some of us take longer than others. And I'm here to say, oh my God, it's taken me a lot longer than it should, I feel. It's my journey. And you create a new path. And it is better. So in this book, she's sitting with a friend in a restaurant. She's hungover, and he's asking her some questions. He's being extremely compassionate. And he then says to her, girl, I want you to know something. You're not bad. You're sick. As in, not well right now. And it's not your fault. Not any more than it would be your fault if you had cancer. And then she replied, yeah, I know. But she didn't buy that. And it stuck with her, though. That lunch, that conversation, it stuck with her. And that's what this chapter is about. It's about talking about the fact that regardless of how bad your addiction is, regardless of where you are in your recovery or your struggle with recovery, this is not your fault. And she continued to try to fix it, which is, I think, what I've been trying to do for decades. Everything in my life that's not going well, I try to fix it instead of recognizing that something's just not going well and maybe change it. Maybe some things that aren't going well in your life just need to either be eliminated from your life or changed instead of trying harder and harder and harder. And so she said she became an expert at pushing through and pressing on while appearing to be unfazed, a skill she had developed very young. And that hit home to me. I felt like I always had to pretend that everything was okay, that I could take care of everything. I became super independent in order to please everybody. She was praised for being strong and resilient, and as a result, she said, I dug in harder, pushing away anything that might communicate dissatisfaction or, God forbid, need. I grew to believe I could fix uncomfortable situations and feelings, that it was my job to fix them, and if I couldn't, it was a failure on my part. And I've lived my life that way. So, another thing that she says is what she noticed is that people who kept blaming, whether they put all the blame on themselves or on others, two sides of the same coin, as it were, didn't get better. I'm going to read that again. People who kept blaming, whether they put all the blame on themselves, that would be me, or on others, two sides of the same coin, as it were, didn't get better. Some pointed the finger out into the world to blame their partner, their kids, their boss, their parents, their luck, their job, their history, and others pointed it inward on themselves. But the sentiment was the same. What's more, they hated themselves, and that hate showed up everywhere, in their pinched faces and apologetic hands, in their shoulders, curved around their hearts like a claw. They wore it in their aggression and anger. They wore it in their speech, in their rebuffs of kindness and goodwill, as if when directed at them, it must be a mistake. And she goes on to talk about this a little bit more. And then she says, these people, for whatever reason, could not or would not move beyond the shackles of blame. They could not see themselves as anything but bad and broken, and I could identify this because I was one of them. That hit home to me, because I still do it. I still do it. There's a lot more in chapter 1, right? But again, it boils down to, it's not your fault. So she asks questions in this, and I'm not going to give you the answers, because she'll ask the questions and then she goes on to talk about those questions. But I'm going to ask you these questions, and maybe you can journal about them. What are my beliefs about addiction and people who get addicted? Where did I get these ideas? Number 2, what is my reaction to learning about the relationship between trauma, pain, and addiction? So I'm going to leave that with you for this week. I am going to make an effort to get these videos up every Tuesday morning around 6 or 7 a.m. my time, Atlantic Standard Time. And so that people will know when these videos are going up. I was going to do this video a little bit later in the day once I had myself showered and cleaned up. I did a long run this morning. I'm marathon training for my 60th birthday. So this is what you're getting today. So if you've stuck around this long of the video, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. If any of this resonated with you, if you know anyone else struggling with addiction and they don't feel that they're getting anywhere with it, that they're making any progress, please share this video if you think that it would help them. Like, subscribe, comment below. Please, I would love to hear from you, and I would love to continue this conversation. I am also struggling with this. I'm sober right now, and it doesn't matter how long I've been sober. I am sober right now, and on this journey with you. So yeah, until next week.